Welcome back to the PPC, everybody, for a top 3 matchup over here in North America. It is Flashpoint up against Sanguine. Now, this isn't the, maybe the orientation you'd expect between these two teams. It's Flashpoint who are in third at 4-3, and it's Sanguine who have started to take NA kind of by storm here, Kresnik, up in second place at 6-1.
Yeah, and seeing how they've been performing at the start, I'm not shocked, I think, to see Flashpoint maybe struggling a little bit, but once they started playing with Pan, I think things clicked a little bit more, I want to say, for the Flashpoint roster.
Right.
Maybe some of the things they're doing are different. They're kind of going a little bit too out of the box, but I think if they go back to a little bit to normalcy, we could see a really strong Flashpoint today, and I think they can bring it to Sanguine, a team that has shown they like to stay within their lane. If Flashpoint take this matchup really seriously, I think they could try to abuse some of the things that Sanguine's been doing.
Well, it's Tea Party and HP Office Jet Pro doing battle as well this week. Team Project versus Snap, and I mentioned 2 versus 3 matchup. Team Project is the one everyone is trying to play catch-up with here in this region, and as I mentioned in Brazil, ever so important to kind of keep pace with some of those top teams. This is how things break down here. This is much more of a top 3 versus bottom 3 than I think we've seen in any of the other regions. Team Project 7-0. 15 plus minus. They have had some maps taken off of them. The potential at 7-0 is of course 21 plus minus, so it dropped 6 maps along the way. What do you think it's been though with Sanguine that's kept them so potent? And kind of a follow-up question maybe to that thought is I've wondered since the beginning. These guys, remember, triple deeps, now Sanguine, they've played triple DPS in effectively every single game, and nobody's been able to slow them down despite knowing what types of comps they're going to be coming in with.
It's because they draft to the strength of the composition. They're always bringing out tanky flankers. They're bringing out backlines that are staying far enough away. And Wadu, of course, specializing in solo tanking now, something that only, Theo in the past for Fnatic has done.
Right.
Being that good at it is something that a lot of people aren't. You can really make more room than a lot of solo tanks would and give your triple DPS a lot of room to work with. But I think the real secret sauce is having those tanky flankers and really always playing in a way that pushes your draft. And I think this might be the first fish market we've seen in probably 3 months.
Krez, I haven't casted a fish market. Did we see him at Worlds? I'm trying to even think then. Maybe we saw fish market at Worlds, but it's been a while. It's been a minute since I'm remembering casting a fish market. All right, so that raises the question, why maybe a fish market here first map overall?
I'm assuming it's got to be Sanguine's pick, right? Fish market just now cycling back into the map pool. It's a DPS map. I mean, this was, when it was being played more consistently in the later time in the PPL, there was a 4 DPS on this map. You would see no tanks whatsoever, something that we were laughing at the time, which is now a reality in some metas. You would see people swapping off of tanks, playing this chaos comps, and I think that plays well to Sanguine. This has got to be almost home territory for them, but they're going up against the members of Flashpoint who have played this map a lot in the past, especially when it was, I think, being picked the most in the last season of the PPL. I don't know if it's the best pick, considering how little they've probably been scrimming it since it's been out of ranked.
We'll have to see how Fish Market performs for both teams here. Now, ban-wise, all today, or at least over in Brazil, it's been, Vivian Talus for one side and then Eevee Rom for the other. Will still be an Eevee, will still be a Vivian, but Victor fills in here for Flashpoint, and a Grover fills in here for Sanguine. So why maybe the pivot away from a Rom, and maybe why a pivot away from a Talus, and what does that open up?
The Rom, he has a lot of space to cover on this map, but I feel like he won't really be able to make too much work. You can just keep so much distance from him. Ever since they nerfed the distance to the dash, he's not really getting away with quite as much. Same with Talus. He's not really able to cross a lot of gaps, so not shocked to see those getting rid of. And Grover, kind of this supplementary sniper. If your team's playing a backline deathball style, he really facilitates that very, very well, because not only is he healing everybody at the same time, even people hiding below you, he's poking the entire team too. The rest of the supports really aren't able to do that. With those bans, though, I think Sanguine, I was going to say, they get the sniper, they still have the duel open, but they've just completely closed that off from Flashpoint.
Well, we've seen what Io can do, specifically over in Brazil today. Just one loss, and that was when Fatal Ambition picked up the Io, and Carnage Gaming were able to kind of play around that. So a Strix, Canessa, and Droxus for the triple DPS here for Sanguine. What kind of emotions does that immediately invoke? Excitement, concern,
pain.
Where did pain?
Well, for just imagining playing against it more than anything, you're trying to cross all that space without an Ashe so far from Flashpoint going Inara Khan. I don't know if you want this stagnant, I guess, tank line against a Strix and Kinessa. You're not really going to cross a lot of space. You're kind of relying on this overpower to really make that room, unless you end up with this double flank draft and they play on their own. But your DPS can't be outpacing your tanks that much on a map that's so wide. Sanguine, I think they've drafted great so far for the map. Distance poke, you can also have so many deep angles. Have one sniper watching the market side, one sniper watching the dock side. Suddenly, where they have to go, straight down the middle, you might be able to make that work, but then you're just playing into the Androxus flanking around you.
Right, then you're going to have Androxus moving around the map. Wadu will be on the barrack here. Absolutely, potential for a little bit of self-sustain, keeping himself alive just a little bit longer. Genos will round out the Sanguine comp, a Strix Luminary boost, a Kinessa Luminary boost. Both of those sound quite painful to me, so maybe pain is the right emotion to think about here. Tiberius, though, that'll round out the Flashpoint draft. Obviously, small data pool on Tiberius, even smaller Tiberius on Fish Market. What do you think of the final pick here for Flashpoint?
It gives him that dive potential. He pairs with the Maeve, he goes aggressive, but again, they have to find a way to sync up with their Khan or they're just going to get outdistanced.
Well, it's Sanguine in second place at 6-1. Flashpoint come into this matchup at 4-3 in third place. Can an upset happen? We'll have to wait and see. Fish Market, a curious enough pick here to start off our set over in North America. Two teams looking to stay up and in pace with Team Project, and I cannot wait to see what Sanguine do on this double sniper composition. Interesting item buys right off the bat. Cool. Moving into a little bit of that Haven on the Kinessa to start off.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, actually. I was about to say it's smart, but then I was thinking the other side. I was like, yeah, of course you buy Haven with double sniper, but against double sniper, but just the Maeve and the Tiberius, it's also not going to do anything to the heavy blade damage, which is a pretty big part of what Pan's going to be doing, I think, with that slow. And they're also kind of low on cauterize as well, not having anything to burst through the potential healing coming out from that IO, but Vex early peeking out, needs to be a lot more careful against double sniper, but they're not even watching the flank. Ghost is already getting walked at.
Yeah, Point Tank Who says Dosups as he is running straight down Main Street, but learns the hard way that two snipers looking at you doesn't bode well when you're in Inara. Wadu taken low, dashes away from the commander's grab, and then finds a way to stay alive. Payan on this Tiberius will leap away and get some healing smartly enough from Vex here, who moves his way back, but a cascade of kills for Sanguine and Flashpoint left without much to stand on.
Yeah, Sanguine played that well. They knew they were going to have to get aggressive, even with the tanks that kind of want to stay still. So pull back, bait them in. They managed to get some decent damage in, and now they can maintain control of this, keeping them pretty far forced out. You can see the tanks already burning some resources just to make room. Flashpoint need to find a pick. Send Payan and Invoke like the same person, but where can he peek? Nowhere when there's two snipers on the other side.
My goodness, he was taken low, but Payan stays alive. 90% for Sanguine. Flashpoint trying to fight back in. Low kill kind of start here outside of Sanguine wiping Flashpoint just once. Out of the high ground will go Khan. Dosups down onto the point. It's cool. We'll toss out one of those Sentinels. Gogurt does take a tumble. That's Vex finishing off one of the two snipers here that Sanguine has at their disposal. Looking for the final shot is cool. Finds one, but is unable to finish off the kill. Luna down on the point, doing absolute work here for Flashpoint. Dosups gets the kill onto Poison. Cool. Dove on by Payan. Down goes Wadu and Flashpoint. They'll swing, and they'll connect for point number one.
Both these tanks getting so aggressive. With Luna capping the point, they can take all that space on the sides, but now they're getting cleaned up by Gogurt. Sneaks right past them, catches both DPS, and he's still alive from the backline.
Yeah, how is he still alive down here? Rubu will drop down. There's actually some peel here. Poison has joined the fight, and Gogurt stays alive throughout it all. Can they continue to stay alive? Push Flashpoint back here on Fish Market. The fight after the fight, ever so important. Kresnik Sanguine seem to be winning it. Now you look at this area. Flashpoint are going to have to move up and over this hill, dismounted from so far away up against Sanguine, but Payan maybe finds an opening and is going to force Cool back.
I really think Sanguine needs to keep better watch in their flanks because they're holding decent positions, but Doe's walking in. Like, how does Payan get away with walking through the right side and combat trancing point blank against Cool there? They just need to have someone calling it, or at least better reaction from the other side. One of the equalizers I called out earlier, the overpower, it doesn't connect, so Flashpoint, tools out of the picture. Still have a minute 30 to actually make some space into these snipers, though.
Well, Poison will make some space instead for Sanguine as Invocal loses the flank battle. Some good shots from Poison, turns around for the soft 3, and Droxus hitting his mark here on defense. Joseph's out on his own, is just going to be heavily staggered out here. Minute left, though, for Flashpoint to maybe move back in. Wadu is able to rocket boots away, but Dostup's never actually ended up getting cleaned up. Finally, Poison finishes off that kill. So kind of back and forth here, but Sanguine may be okay to take these one-for-one trades, just buying a little bit of extra time on the defense.
You know, I didn't think about the clay pigeon factor, Dave. I didn't realize that Payan's leap is going to just make him the easiest target in the world for this double sniper for Androxus to connect on as he's flying by. And I really don't know how they're going to make all the room they need to. Honestly, I feel like it's so much pressure onto Invocal to get into these snipers, but looks like maybe they're just going to play natural cover and pressure out Wadu. If he's the only one that's presenting in these close range areas, they're going to have to. But Wadu, if he just plays his dashes right, doesn't get slowed down, he's going to be so hard to pin down with all that self-sustain.
Well, it's Luna that's actually kind of moved the cart out of range of the rest of Flashpoint here. So Sanguine were able to draw the line where they please. Rubu is down, and Dostup's just back returning from base. Suddenly it's Payan those, turned around a couple of kills. Poison back from respawn as well. Can Tiberius find his third here? He sure can, but Poison will put him down one final time. Overtime reset as Wadu is looking for the kill onto Vex, and now it's Dostup's left out on his own one more time. He was able to sustain plenty last time around, but now you've got all of Sanguine looking at you, and Sanguine complete the defense. 4 ultimates ready to go for the next mid-fight.
Yeah, unless you get a really clean wipe near the top of that hill, you're never going to push over it, especially with the Strix and a Kinessa waiting for you on the other side. Really hard to actually sustain through that as soon as the wall goes down. Yeah, that was pretty good by Poison, Dave. I would say that was a pretty clean one. I missed
the mid-air punch the first time around, goodness.
Yeah, catching him during the crouching Tigron does a decent amount of damage. If you can get that, the punch does almost equal damage to a shot, so cleaning that up as soon as he goes by means Payan has no chance to land and recover. Looking at the ultimates, neither team really has crazy impact on any of them. Midnight and Overpower, I think, are the strongest ones, so if Flashpoint can maintain those resources going into each mid-fight, not spend them on the push, they could turn it around, but they have to cross such a large distance on such a wide map to actually get into these snipers that they might have to spend them before they get all the way point blank with the enemy team.
Well, Equalizer in the Overpower does connect here for Flashpoint, and the rest of the kills do as well. 2 to start off this fight. Sanguine are being swept on the back line. It's only Poison who's pulled one back onto Payan, but the middle ground has been forfeit here. Poison into a reversal, but is unable to connect for any damage, and Invocal will finish off the kill. What a great start here for Flashpoint, already at 60%.
Poison maybe could have tried to live or just hide to save his life, because now he's staggered out, only just now respawning with Wadu coming into the point last second. He might not even be able to get this dome off, barely living, going through, and that'll buy his team maybe just enough time.
Begon was used, but didn't connect. Cool with the shots onto Payan. Tough game to be a Tiberius, but he's maybe opening up enough space for Flashpoint to move forward. Poison dashing through, a cursed arm plugs down onto Invocal. The turn and burn is enough damage. Vex will finish off the kill. Dostup's being sustained here. Baller, Steve, and Cool both down to the point they go. Luna dashes through, stuns down the Kinessa. Baller, Steve will fall as well. In overtime, just too quick, and Flashpoint win another mid.
I have no idea how Poison lived that long, but it almost opened the door. I just don't know if they needed to throw Cool at the point. I don't think it was worth it. You had Steve buying time if he was far enough back and wasn't able to be a threat that they could easily shoot at. Maybe he finds a kill on one of them. Maybe the respawns can do a little bit more, but they both go to the point at the same time and they don't give themselves a chance to refight. And this is where Flashpoint really needs to snowball, and this blade dance might be the opener they need.
This is a much better offensive push here. Payan moves himself through for a couple of kills. Now it's Wadu taken down. Can Rubu find the final shot? He can, just through the wall. Payload has not stopped since it first left its station. Up and over that crest it goes. You'd think that this is where snipers would be able to flourish. Sit free on the backline, team pushing over a high ground crest, but look at what Flashpoint are doing. They're moving in, they're preventing anyone from Sanguine from getting out. It's Wadu who has to burn the rocket boots to get down into contest range, but the shield not wide enough, and Flashpoint, they make it 3.
That's what happens when you snowball on Fish Market. If you can get over that hill, if you can get close to that tree cover, you can't get out of spawn far enough to actually make anything happen. I love seeing Blade Dance work out, man. It's so good into Genos. Biggest downside of that ultimate is it doesn't apply Cauterize. So if you dive someone and they get healed by a Furia, by a Ceres, by a Grover, you basically have done nothing. You've annoyed them, you've made the healer spend 1 cooldown for an ultimate. But Genos' healing can't really outpace the damage that a good Blade Dance can do. So seeing Payan rush down the backline, get some kills, and help that snowball happen, I'm definitely putting a little bit more value on the Tiberius here. I wasn't sure how it would do having kind of inconsistent long-range damage, but he's kind of playing like almost like a third off tank. He's throwing himself at the enemy team, spending these cooldowns to slow to do burst damage, and it's enough to open the door for Invocal a lot of the time.
Well, it's already game point here for Flashpoint against Sanguine. A different start here. Double tap from Heavy Blade connects for a little bit of damage from Payan. Different start, though, from Sanguine. They've kind of moved themselves back, not on their own back line, I suppose, but off to the heavy right-hand side of this map, and there's just a collapse from Flashpoint, and nobody from Sanguine can answer.
Yeah, they're trying to fight as long as they can on the side, but I think Wadu living this long is the opposite of what they want. Overpower missed, but it doesn't make a huge difference.
That's
keep
it.
Getting all the kills. Nope. Yeah, they're not even close enough. There's absolutely no way. They just fought for too long.
Wow, Flashpoint are able to convincingly take the final point here after, despite a 4-1, what was somewhat back and forth through the first few points. Flashpoint lock it down, and they take game number 1 here. Creativity maybe in the double sniper, but didn't quite connect for what Sanguine were looking for.
Yeah, and I thought it was Sanguine's pick, but actually, apparently people are saying it was Flashpoint's pick, which means they elected to go second. And to me, that seems like they went to bait out these snipers, right? They start with a first pick Strix, give away the IO to Flashpoint, and then they take Kinessa. Suddenly they're like, all right, well, yeah, we'll just draft this comp that deals with your double sniper that effectively. And I think their experience on Fish Market that they have, I think, in spades over Sanguine really showed in that drafting phase. Sanguine drafted to their team, but I don't think they drafted well enough to the map.
Well, 6s or 7s was the name of the game here for Sanguine as far as the death columns go. So kind of even priority maybe from Flashpoint. When they won the fights, they won them big, and everyone from Sanguine ended up dying there. 11 and 7 from Payan, the most deaths on his team, but also the most kills. And I think the Tiberius played a decent role there for Flashpoint in getting the win.
Yeah, just like I said, I think he was just throwing himself in towards those snipers. If he hits 2 shots of combat trance and blades them, it's so easy to deal with, right? They're right. 50% slowed. They've taken almost 2,000 damage. Even if Cool burns the teleport, he's walking in mud. That Heavy Blade slows you for so much, and that's just easy cleanup for Invocal at that point.
Wow, the damage, Krez, isn't even really all that close. I mean, heavily for Sanguine, you do have a Luminary boost. I mean, 74, 64, 70k, the highest for Flashpoint here is 45,000 for Payan, so 30,000, 25,000 lower than the least damaging DPS player. But it was important damage. I mean, maybe Sanguine were just so squishy outside of Wadu, the potential for doing high amounts of damage was just a little bit lower for Flashpoint.
It absolutely was. I mean, they had 3 DPS, none of which really had a lot of self-sustain, barring maybe Andro, only when Reversal's up. So that damage that Sanguine was doing wasn't sticking. They were hitting tanks that were shouting, DRing, walling. They were doing a lot, but no one could really follow up. It was all on Poison to clean up on the sniper damage, and he can't get in to a Khan with a grip waiting, the Luna stun. There's just too much in the way for them to actually clean up any of the kills.
Yeah, seems to be a bit of an answer there for Flashpoint. Maybe not across the blanket of triple DPS compositions, but obviously something in their pocket going to Fish Market first. 4-1 to Flashpoint to start off this set. Serpent Beach up next. Another map that does cater to some long-range sniper potential. I don't know if Sanguine go for the double sniper here on Serpent Beach. Might need a little extra mobility in your triple DPS composition.
Yeah, this is a map that if they should be doing those multiple flankers, I think it plays so much better into what they actually want to be doing. most of the time on these maps, they can play Mave, Andro, Koga, Xin, all of these things that will make things work. I'd say Eevee, but I don't think Sanguine will ever let Eevee go, literally ever. I think they did maybe once or twice, and I think the win rate against it is single digit at the very least, which is why it remains in that ban column for as long as it has. But with first pick on this map, they can get that Andro early, and they can draft it to live otherwise. Just let that Andro clean up from far away, not have to commit the same way that he has to on Fish Market. And
remember, it's Poison that did have a good hand in a few of the fights that were working for Sanguine in game number 1 on the Androxus. So if Sanguine are able to kind of pick that one up for, I say for free, but without giving up too much priority elsewhere, I think it's a great pick for Sanguine in game number 2 to try to bounce back after Flashpoint swing first. Victor taken away, and Nara, slightly different ban. Remember, it was Eevee Grover in game 1 banned out by Sanguine. This time it is going to be Eevee and Nara. So now the frontline pool takes a little bit of a hit.
Yeah, and I think that's why they're going to Io with Inara out there. Get Io. Now suddenly all the point tanks that are going to be fighting on the objective, be it Barrack, Terminus, they get hit a little harder by Luna. There's no way for them to really stop that stun from happening. They just have to hope they're in the best position possible when they get hit by it. So good pick by Sanguine. It's been something that I think they've fallen back on quite a bit. Flashpoint, getting that Grover. It was banned last game, and maybe we're going to find out why. Some good poke, some good healing. It could play exactly to a backline death ball comp.
Yeah, that was exactly my thought. I mean, I was curious enough at the game 1 ban, but now maybe some answers as Grover picked in for Flashpoint here in game number 2. Khan for the off tank for Flashpoint. Likely maybe Rubu here in that role, depending on what the other tank, if there is another tank for Flashpoint. But Rubu on this Khan, the potential is always there for big games. So I think I tend to agree with the way Flashpoint have looked at that off tank here and picking up the Khan for themselves.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it kind of says they want to play slow. I know they had Khan and didn't play super slow last time, but it's a different map. You can't really rely on them having such a backline heavy comp. They do get the Strix again, which he's just a general backline. I wouldn't really even consider him a sniper most of the time now. The way he gets played in these high tier games is very quick scopy. Use the speed to rotate and just hit from the side is kind of what they fall back on a lot of the time. Expecting to get another flanker, but it won't be Mave taking that away. That's a lot of chase and DR safety that Flashpoint have denied from Sanguine.
I suppose there's a reason I said if Flashpoint go with the second tank. They still absolutely could. Barrack's still on the table, one of Dosup's great picks. But double healer could end up being Ferocity Grover for some of that long-range confirmable damage here. We'll have to see where Flashpoint go with their final pick. But Sanguine are going to lock in Terminus for their assuming only tank, unless they shock the world and pick something other than triple DPS. And they don't, as that focusing Lens Ying has proven to us that she can do some damage and supplement some healing as well.
Yeah, that's an overwhelming amount of sustain coming from Sanguine, especially if the Siphon is used onto the DPS once they get pressured. But that is something new, I would say, from Flashpoint. Triple support, we haven't seen Pip a lot in the PPC, but this recent buff that he's gotten, perfect mid-air accuracy, always been a pet peeve of mine whenever I play Pip. Now that it's back, you can play pretty aggressive with him. We saw Kwashi pull out the Sprint 5. Did not work the best, but I think it kind of proves that there's things that Pip can do.
And fitting into a triple healer composition is maybe one of those things. Flashpoint, they take game number 1 over a team that's ahead of them in the standings here in Sanguine. Serpent Beach, absolutely a map that caters to diverse, interesting playstyles, and both of these teams have drafted for it here. We're going to get the answer here in just a moment, so I won't necessarily levy the question to you, but the talent of choice for Pip, maybe with some recent changes to him, becomes a little bit more apparent, specifically in this lineup. Deep Roots for the moment and Catalyst for the moment on that Pip.
Yeah, I think if it was only 2 healers, you might see Mega Potion. That's something that people were kind of playing around with. Pip was not allowed earlier in the season because of a bug with Mega Potion, but a lot of people were running him with that until that happened. Extra Sustain is great, but when you have 3 supports, not really necessary. Focus on the damage, and you can see by the items that's going to be their plan. They're playing very slow and defensive again, as I think you can expect with that solo tank Khan. Sanguine trying to get aggressive, can't find the opening, but they stay alive with all that sustain they have, and I think that's going to be the name of the game.
And Flashpoint have gotten rid of Luna as well, but can you win the fight elsewhere? Payan wants to help and will flank around the backside and get the kill onto Gogurt. Baller, Steve, Wadu, and Cool will combine for 3 more kills onto Flashpoint. And Sanguine, they're able to retake control of this mid. Payan lurking in the backline, but a great start on the high ground.
Yeah, and he's gonna get, I think, pushed out by the respawns potentially. Gogurt playing really far back, waiting for him to refight, and now he's just out of that fight more or less, and Sanguine have a decent amount of damage, and Flashpoint should be coming back in with more. This Maeve is distracting them, but Luna still capping away.
It's 96% for Sanguine now. In and out goes Vex, but Gray screened for the next 5 seconds. Onto the point, though, are the living members of Flashpoint, but health bars whittling away. Sanguine have found themselves an opening and a flick shot from Poison over onto Doseps. That's a nice shot, and that's a nice double, and maybe a soft 3 here, and it's Gogurt instead who finishes the kill. Sanguine will swing first here on Serpent Beach, and didn't leave the door open at all for Flashpoint.
No, they really just kept things locked down early. Wadu, really fast aggression up top, backed up by the multiple healers they have, having great burst options. They couldn't just go through it. They couldn't break through the siphon. I always say it's a clock, and the time ran out before they could make something happen.
Well, it's Poison down through the Midnight, who's able to stay alive, and Vocal is going to use the ultimate to try to buy time on the defense, but instead Poison stays alive, turns around some kills, and it's Flashpoint once again who are on the back foot. The punch connects, but not for enough damage, and Rubu is able to stay alive, and some sustain into the back of Khan will keep him as the last member alive, but might be hurting at this point. The rest of Flashpoint just back and respawning, and Rubu's death timer reset just over 10 seconds.
Steve's aggressive dive there to clean up that damage really shows how well coordinated this team is. When your support is able to clean up that fast, you know your comms are good. Wadu, though, maybe not as good as I thought. A little bit isolated pushing up top, but Steve cleans up another with Gogurt in the carry corner. Flashpoint have to get all the way over up top to make this work.
Ooh. My goodness, Poison is just connecting on this Androxus. You cannot stop this guy. That's a soft 4-piece around the end there for Sanguine. Flashpoint left wondering what the heck just happened. Poison moves through, hits the shots, the dominoes fall, and Sanguine go up 2-0.
Sanguine never let go of the gas pedal. They just kept pressuring, and anytime anyone wanted to try to get dove from Flashpoint, Goddess Blessing healing on that target, illusions next to them. Cool, already on his second illusory rift after using it pretty early. Just always the resources being spent. With this triple support composition, Flashpoint have to be able to spend their resources on whoever's getting targeted, but it's just not enough. Their only burst option was Pip, and Payan was just in Sanguine spawn for half of that mid. That's not where you need to be when you're the primary burst healer to stop Poison from doing whatever he wants.
And maybe enough CC potential from Flashpoint that everyone from Sanguine has gone into resilience here and look to shrug off some of what Flashpoint are bringing to the table. Overpower does not connect here, but Gogurt finds the final shot onto Invocal. Luna doing her job in spades here in this mid-fight. Already over 54% rampaging are a couple members now of Sanguine, 2 players for Flashpoint. They're kind of just cornered back here, Kresnik, and these are the front lines. I'm not sure Rubu's going to be able to stay alive, and at 90%, Sanguine might just have point number 3 locked down.
Yeah, I think for sure with all that extra damage they did at the end, Flashpoint needs to die while contesting the point or just die a little bit faster. I'm not sure how they can think they can refight when they're just making the fights go so long. Sanguine already on the high ground. Wadu well positioned here too, and this is what they have to do. Keep this place locked down. Wadu can get away with so much because he has Reanimate, but his team has to follow up now.
Will he use it on the high ground? Yes, he will. No damage to be found, though, but the rest of the team moves forward, while maybe some eyes are turned towards that terminus. Whirlwind for Flashpoint, trying to keep them into the fight, and Invocal will get the kill onto Wadu. No Reanimate to save his life this time. But watch out for Poison. He has turned around so many of these fights. Has an accursed arm, maybe, to get some damage, but has to punch his way out, and the reversal won't save his life up against Invocal. Now it's Gogurt over in the carry corner, looking for the final shot, and he finds it. Over onto Invocal. He stays alive into the stealth, but Rubu will gun him down. Overpower onto Wadu this time, and off the map goes 1. Checkerboard of kills, but Flashpoint on the defensive stand maybe a little better off for it.
Yeah, the kills getting traded, it just always looks better for Flashpoint, considering their spawn is so close. Evil Mojo into an illusory. They might actually have enough sustain to live through this, and it looks like they do, but all the spawners means those are just almost 2 wasted ultimates.
Yeah, resilience paying off here for Sanguine, and they shrug it off. Invocal down, Vex down as well. Poison and Gogurt combined for some final shots onto Rubu. This is going to be the full sweep here with just Invocal coming back off of the respawn. The payload will inch its way in. The Accursed Arm just to kill off Invocal, and they certainly do that. Flashpoint left back and respawning, and that's going to be game. Sanguine bounce back after a loss and roll their way to a 4-0.
That was one of the best timed Accursed Arms I've ever seen. It looked like he blinked.
Perfect.
That Midnight lasted for such a short amount of time, with the 2 air shots coming immediately after that. And Sanguine, they looked a little out of sync on that push, Sanguine did, but they were just able to come back slowly. They kept trading, and the healing that they had outpaced the damage coming out from Flash. Flash was like, all right, we retook the high ground, but everyone from Sanguine was back on the low, and they just picked off the people from Flashpoint coming up top one by one.
I had 2 is the name of the game for the deaths here for Sanguine in game number 2, outside of Wadu and Cool, of course. Wadu, I say only dying 4 times because as solo tank in this one, if 4 deaths is the highest on your team, something has worked. Cool, undying, 21 streak for the Sanguine, I don't know, not healer, I suppose. Off healer, maybe is the term.
That works.
We'll slap on
only
that
7k
one.
less healing than Io.
Yeah, I'll call it an off healer. Baller Steve doing a good job on main healer here, but I agree with this. I think Poison stole the show on the Androxus this game. Multi-kills across the board and was just so difficult for Flashpoint to find kills on.
Yeah, Androxus is such a high priority pick on this map. That's why I was surprised they went with the Io and early and gave it up potentially to Flashpoint, but Flashpoint didn't want it. Con Grover higher on their priority list, and I feel like that should change after this game, considering how dominant Poison was in finishing up all the damage coming from everyone else.
Well, obviously hindsight is easy for us here in 2020. Year, the way hindsight looks, I guess. That worked out. Pip didn't work out, but do you admire some of that creativity or maybe fail to see what the direction was with that pick?
I see the value of it a little bit, I think. I don't know if it really showed there, but it's Serpent Beach. Pip has verticality. He has a great ultimate. He brings a lot of things to the table. That just was not the right place to put the Pip, I think. You needed some more consistent damage, I would say, coming up from Flashpoint to actually clean up the kills.
That's absolutely fair enough, and maybe some more creativity for Flashpoint moving forward here. 2 teams close in the standings, 2 teams close on the battleground. We are tied up at 1 here, and that means we're going to a game 3, and that means we're headed to a break, so stick around. And just like that, we are back for game number 3 between Flashpoint and Sanguine. A back and forth set so far. Flashpoint out of the gates hot on Fish Market. Take that one 4-2, and then a little bit quicker there for Sanguine in game number 2, 4-0 on Serpent Beach. Somewhat unstoppable. And one thing we sort of touched on, Kresnik, and especially moving in to a map like Brightmarsh here in game 3, maybe wonder if there's a shift in priority for Androxus for Flashpoint.
I think Androxus and Io are going to be the keys here in the game because Io team won both games. Clearly the teams are comfortable playing around it. I don't think Sanguine are going to ban it, so it falls to Flashpoint. Doubt we're going to see it go this game because they can first pick it, but I think it's going to have to be higher priority for them. That and Androxus both are going to have to be high up there for them. If they keep banning Victor and Vivian though, Sanguine just showed that they can be flexible. Banning the standard console backlines, it takes those away from them as it would take away from any team, but they can put Poison on anything. They can put Cool and Gogurt on any hit scan, even a couple projectile characters. There's a lot that they can do, and I feel like they limit their bans a little bit by banning those 2 every single time.
Right. I mean, we have seen what Victor and Vivian have kind of done when off the leash, but Sanguine specifically, they've been off the leash on so many different picks. So maybe moving forward, some shift in priority. Flashpoint obviously don't feel like they need to move there. Here, it is Victor Vivian stays true. Androxus hover here for Flashpoint and an Andro lock in. And Sanguine have taken away the Io. So Flashpoint steal the Androxus pick away and Io not available.
Sanguine can actually take the Inara away from them now if they want to, but I love the priority shift, getting that Androxus away. It's done really well for them last game, even if it didn't carry them to a win on Fish Market. You could still see the impact he was having when he wasn't able to be as controlled. Grover from Sanguine too. Take that away from them also, and 2 comfort picks from Flashpoint go to Sanguine, and they still fit into what they want to do, I think. That deep root CC, that poke, that AoE healing. I can't see them being unhappy about having any of that in one of their standard lineups.
Grover and Nara, great start for Sanguine. To your point, Kresnik, maybe taking some of that away from Flashpoint. Androxus Bomb King, talk about space control, especially here on Bright Marsh. That's a 1-2 damage punch I think that Flashpoint will be happy with, and then a barrack to lock down maybe the most important space of all, somewhere in that mid, and get yourself some percentage.
Yeah, that's a fantastic start for Flashpoint. Barrack into the Inara, I think this patch I would give Inara the advantage, but Barrack will still do it. Will buy enough time for the Endra to come around the side, for the BK to win against whoever he's fighting on the side. No one really can win against that BK in a 1v1 unless you get certain flankers. Maybe Strix at long range should be able to pull that off, but now Sanguine are playing this very slow baity game. And if they don't go over an aggressive flanker to clean up on that damage, Flashpoint can just get a strong healer and play slow and could potentially have it if they have enough damage onto that Inara.
It's a very classic composition kind of from Flashpoint here.
Yeah.
Barrack and an Ashe, point tank, off tank, Bomb King Blaster for space control, direct damage Androxus for some unmitigated damage, some mobility as well. And Aldamba really kind of completes the classic feel here for Flashpoint. Low pick rate, kind of low win rate, to be honest, here with you, Krez. What do you make of Flashpoint? You confident maybe in the 5 they've brought?
I mean, this is like 2018 versus 2020, more or less, on both sides of this.
Boomers versus Zoomers.
Look at the players. I mean, more or less across the board, it kind of is. But I think both teams have great drafts for their style. Sanguine, they have an overwhelming amount of sustain. They're really putting all their chips in the Wadu basket, though. If they have a way to burn through that Inara sustain on Bright Marsh, a map that can snowball, this could easily go out of control.
Absolutely, and this is the tiebreaker already. Game number 3 to put one of these two teams on set point. Bright Marsh waiting around the side. Classic feel for Flashpoint here in game number 3, and a new age vibe maybe for Sanguine. Deep Roots one more time. Impulse will be the talent of choice for the Cassie. Cassie, another champion that has seen some play here and there, but not as deep in the champion pool, not as highly prioritized in picks and bans as we maybe saw her around this time last year.
Yeah, she's a little bit less consistent, I think, with the roll cooldown nerf. She used to be so hard to dive, but now it really is only when Somersault is available that she can really have that same level of sustain. And early pressure onto the point, like I said, Flashpoint have to win this fight with Sanguine right now. Actually, Wadu does get forced out, but they have the cap time war on their side. Still, they get the trade.
Yeah, first blood immediately for Dosups, but traded out by a nice double from Gogurt. That'll open up the door for Sanguine to maybe move themselves in. Poison will complete the kill onto Rubu. Dosups right back, though. So Sanguine, despite having the absolute kill advantage, haven't been able to get onto the point until just now. Still fighting from behind for Flashpoint. It's Payan, who's now back from base. Will try to get rid of a dodge rolling Cassie, but unable to connect on that one just yet. Sanguine in control of this mid with Flashpoint trying to find themselves a re-engagement. Maybe it's a flank from Dosups. That one works out as cool. Goes down and Wadu is going to try to retreat his way back.
Flashpoint retook that perfectly, I think. You just play on the side, you force them back so they can't look at you in window, and then you turn and burn the Inara. Doe should be able to live long enough to make a difference, so that works perfectly in their favor with Cool, a little bit overextended on point. And you can see all the space they're trying to take, but Cool dimensional linking straight into them, but it turned their heads away from Poison, but he can't get anything done.
And tosses out a few bombs, and those connect plenty onto Poison. It's Sanguine who have lost another member here at Flashpoint. Off to the races with an early lead. Whirlwind sustains up Sanguine here, but a Dread Serpent tries to peel off, but Wadu, he's got some CC immunity here. He's able to stand right back onto the point, but that time's out. Down, he is stunned. Gogurt will get the kill onto Invocal. Dosups from back behind his shield will plug away some damage. Poison gets the kill onto Payan. But that's maybe all she wrote here. It's overtime on, overtime off. And Flashpoint, they'll strike first.
That could not have been a more perfect kinetic burst. I just wanted to mention that Cool literally
you have to.
Could touch his hand on the wood as he flew over it the entire time. But Flashpoint, do keep that under control again. I think off the back of that perfect retake, and they're going to have to just control this area slowly again. I think it's the same exact strat. You have to burn Wadu because a lot depends on him, and a Poppy around the corner will take him out immediately.
Thank you very much, says Payan, for standing there. Now a double kill at 200 health. Just needs one final shot to die, but Poppy Bomb defensively there. And he sticks one around the side. Masterclass from Payan here, and Rubu will answer a nice double kill from himself. Payload rounding really the final big corner. Maybe an assert dominance, Kresnik, could change this thing around for Flashpoint. Maybe you don't want to change it. Maybe you want to keep things rolling, and Rubu could be the one to open it up.
They honestly might have to use it if they want to take it, because Sanguine just have so much poke damage. As long as nobody drops on their team, they're going to be just all spamming all these different sight lines. Wadu has to play careful, though, because he's the only one who can contest this. Already getting forced back. Playing in one choke, you can see how much pressure they're putting on this Inara, playing in that natural cover. And Sanguine, honestly, someone might have to drop to make something happen, but Gogurt finds the first kill.
That's a good shot onto Invocal. Now Rubu's got some damage from really either side, and it's going to be tough for Ash. Maybe not to survive, the DR helping out there, but to find much more damage. Payan does drop down, stays alive there, so only one man staggered out for Flashpoint as Sanguine moved down just slightly. Wadu doing a good job of kind of converging on this side. Poison from the high ground. Assert dominance from Rubu onto the low ground. Doesn't really go, I think, where he was hoping. That's the knockback out of the assert dominance. Invocal stun down. Seismic Crash opens this one up. Rubu gets cleaned up by Poison. 38 seconds remaining. It looks like for the time being, Sanguine have kept things where they stand.
Steve completely shuts down that assert dominance. That was rooted. It must have been because of how Rubu looked like when he was moving, but rooted in midair forces him to land exactly where he was before. No CC immunity on that cast. It's really going to slow things down, and he also has that ability to get back up top, so Steve Grover, great pick so far for this hold, but right now, Wadu, that Earthing Guard's gonna run out soon. This is a dangerous place for them, but killing Invokal's a great way to start.
That's how the last defensive stand started off as well. Gogurt down onto Invocal, but oh no, they step off just for a second and Flashpoint roll it in a momentary lapse from Sanguine. Give Flashpoint the 2-0 lead.
Yeah, I think that must have been some knockback, and I'm not sure who it must have been. It could have been Ash, it could have been Bomb King, but someone to knock Wadu off. With that big radius now, there's no way he just walked off, right? I'll give him benefit of the doubt, but there's no way, right? Must have been. I'll say something.
I wouldn't think, but here we are. You know, we'll maybe revisit that at a later date, but it is 2-0 nonetheless here for Flashpoint. After sustaining through that first mid, they capture it. Sanguine now looking to maybe change something up and get themselves on the board.
I'm not sure what they can change up other than maybe controlling the outside a little bit more. They're still sitting far back. Ying now up top, that might be a difference maker, but they have to control this outer area if they want to stop Wadu from taking a little bit too much damage. This King Bomb will force them back, though, and immediately all that pressure just gone.
Oh, that's the turnaround stun onto Cool, and the follow-up damage is there from Payan. See ya later, says the Bomb King, and that's a double kill now onto the high ground. One more kill will be the clean, sweet Poppy Bomb through, and Vocal finishes off the kill. Flashpoint already at 42% on this mid, and look at this zone.
There's no way they can get through it. Inara already dismounted, 57%. No one's mobile enough to actually make it happen, but first kill comes in. They get another. Maybe they can walk through without taking too much, but Payan stays alive and even poppies them back.
It's a lot of dismounts there. It's going to be slow going for Sanguine to move themselves back in, but it's Wadu who's able to get back onto the point. Illusory Rift used by Sanguine as well, and you can see Flashpoint. They're okay just to take a breather. Fast cap for Sanguine. But now you've got to get kills with your Flashpoint. Sanguine have regained control of this mid-fight. A great wall around the side. That might force Dosups to take the long way, and it does, and he's not able to rocket boots his way back into range. All it takes is one retake, and Sanguine get their first point.
Yeah, great wall by Wadu, followed up by good positioning by Poison to burn Doe the entire time. And maybe they get a little too happy that they won that. The aggression coming in, and this Dread Serpent might stem this even further.
Now it's Flashpoint's time to kind of put their stamp on this defense, but some ultimates starting to fly from Sanguine are going to have really nothing to do with that. Dosups moves forward. We'll drop down the shield, but it's Wadu who's going to break through the other side. Rocket boots forward, and Dosups will end up falling down. So Flashpoint move forward, throw out a couple ultimates late on, aren't able to find much for it. Sanguine are going to move themselves in and maybe have some ultimates to dislodge some of the high ground for Flashpoint.
None right now, but they should just take this fight as grindy as possible to get their ultimates as they get closer and closer. They can maybe stay alive through this assert dominance. They could make it happen, but early kill onto Gogurt.
That's a great start for Flashpoint, and assert dominance. Dan will set up the kill for Dosups, and Vocal will follow up as well. So a good start for Flashpoint, able to kind of mitigate what Sanguine. You can kind of get this sense of an ongoing push from Sanguine, but Flashpoint kind of stick their feet down. Good sticks from Payan, but unable to get the kill. At this point, though, it's always that kind of risk-reward on the defensive side. If you get completely swept here, if you're Flashpoint, we've seen payloads get plenty close. Sanguine are able to get some kills, and Payan's deep in the back line. Looks like Sanguine are going to come out ahead kill-wise.
Yeah, that Illusory Rift was actually perfect, but cool, even after losing Steve. And all Flashpoint can do is just buy the little bit of time that we'll be able to before he does go down. More than I thought, but Battering Ram not as strong DR-wise as it was in the past. He does still fall. Sanguine, if they can do this without spending ultimates, they're in a great place to go up 3-2 potentially, but no one knows in Vocals there on the side. He got there early and waited. Patience will pay off dividends if this cart gets any further. Only ultimates I would see Sanguine spending, maybe the Whirlwind, but they'd have to use it now, honestly, if they want to save Gogurt.
And Vocal has made his way to the back line of Sanguine here. Gogurt finds the snapshot, and Androxus takes a seat. 2 kills for Sanguine as they continue their onslaught forward. Up on the high ground, long-range axe from Baller. Steve connects to the forehead of Vex. Dosup's back behind the tree. Both charges of rocket boots reset, used now. Cool. We'll finish off that kill. And Sanguine, they said, say less. Payload goes in, and we are tied at 2.
And they spend nothing. Nothing at all. They are a flashbang a little bit earlier, but that's basically an ability with a very long cooldown for Strix a lot of the time. And Strix is cleaning up on almost every single kill, it looks like, from the damage that Sanguine is doing. 11 kills for him, top in the game. Flashpoint are going to have that assert, though, and I think playing around that is going to be what determines whether Sanguine win or lose this mid.
Right.
They won that last one after a miracle retake in a very long fight, backed up by that Whirlwind, but if they can maybe root Rubu when he's coming in to use that assert dominance, if they can just pressure him enough to have to dash in and use it in a bad spot, that could help. It's all about this outside control. Don't give Rubu that deep angle to land that assert dominance into the tree or onto anybody on their backline that needs to stay alive.
Vex has the Dread Serpent to provide a little extra peel. Gogurt will find the first blood onto Dosups. Brutal start for Flashpoint here. Already main point tank gone. Payan, though, has the flank. Poison doesn't realize there's a Bomb King lurking on the high ground. Gogurt does, though, but is unable to finish off the kill. He's deep in the back line. It looks like Flashpoint have found themselves a great offensive start here, but look out for Sanguine. They've already got themselves 57% on the point, so they're going to be fighting from behind. Wadu finally falls, and Flashpoint are able to get themselves some percentage climb.
Gogurt just moonwalked into the entirety of Flashpoint. It didn't care that they were there, just trying to kill the Bomb King. Gotta play a little more in the open. There's angles he could have taken, but takes another bad angle, and Payan wins the duel again.
King Bomb rolls through, does stun down onto one, an immediate follow-up by Rubu. Whirlwind to kind of counter out a lot of the dive, but it's so far back. Flashpoint still building percentage over on the point. Wadu from the backside will make his way back in. Poison, though, with a well-timed flank, has found a double kill and makes it a soft 3. Official double kill for Poison may have given Sanguine their 3rd point here in this game. Rubu, shoulder bash, but it's off to the side. Payan takes a tumble as well, and Sanguine fight back in and get point number 3.
And that was flawless play from Steve. Steve saving Poison there, the duo of them, just perfect. The Blossom stopped that one bomb from killing him. Then the Whirlwind comes out, and it barely outpaces the damage coming in through the Cauterize. He lives and gets a triple. That was just so hard for Payan to actually deal with, that amount of healing coming out. And now Sanguine just want to keep their foot on the gas, want to stay aggressive as long as they can. Try to bait someone in, maybe have someone play far back like Poison is now, but getting poppied off the edge is going to make that impossible, and this Illusory Rift, not as good as it could have been.
Yeah, it's real brutal, and it's a double kill now for Payan on the start of this defense. 3 members of Sanguine really left in fighting range, but we've seen this story before, Kresnik, where Sanguine kind of pushed back in the mid, Flashpoint and looked for some kills. This time, though, I would argue it looks a little bit better. They're able to kind of completely clean up their kills, don't lose many in the meantime, or any at this point, with a minute and a half left, burning plenty of time off that clock.
Yeah, the sustain wasn't there in time for them. The Illusory Rift not able to save anybody. Need to charge another one if they want to make something happen, but a root, I think, leads to a kill from that Cassie on the side. Doe's also deep in the back. Flashpoint need to get aggressive, but I feel like they're almost getting baited in by that push from Doe.
Wadu is low, and Rubu will try to plug down some damage. Vex is here as well, unable to finish off the kill, and Wadu and Poison combine for a couple. Flashpoint, 3 members back and respawning. Rubu off to the side, in behind Sanguine as the payload continues to move forward. It's going to be a heavy stagger onto Ash. Body block onto the shoulder bash is good, and Payan just kind of walks forward. Sanguine kind of taking these easy 1v1s and keep the payload moving.
I think they just thought Rubu was going to buy more time. Cursed Arm might buy some time on the side to kill Gogurt, but they just got baited in by Doe, and it's been a stagger 1-by-1 since then. I'm not sure what they're thinking. They do have some picks, but all those staggers are forcing out this sort of dominance from Rubu that could have potentially done a lot more on the next fight.
And there's 20 seconds left. That's going to time out here in a moment, and Sanguine are still alive for it. No Whirlwind, no Illusory Rifts, so the sustain largely mitigated. A Dread Serpent goes flying. Final shot's important here, and in Vocal, you never bet against him. It's a 3 sweep for Flashpoint. And it looks like we're headed to a 0.7. Dome Shield used, Dread Serpent used. So team's kind of limping, maybe ultimate-wise, into this next mid.
You know, I feel bad for Doe. I feel bad for Doe about that push, because he found this incredible opening. He got super aggressive. It was potentially what his team needed, but Sanguine just held strong, and even though he walked in, distracted 2 people, they had too much damage in the way for the rest of the team to follow up. Now they have to go and potentially win this fight with only a King Bomb, which has gotten some stuns, but Payan's not really walking away from them alive a lot of the time. Though on the other side for Sanguine, it is also only a Seismic Crash and potentially Scout. Scout to spot out the start from Flashpoint, and Sanguine have looked a little shaky at the start of these mids with only a Seismic Crash to rely on. They might have to play it a little slower and then try to retake the right side if they can get some people baited in, but Sanguine, they've shown, I think, over all their games that they can adapt, they can make it work, but they're a similar start, but a lot slower from Flashpoint, so this looks like the right play for Sanguine.
Well, here we go. Final mid-fight to determine who takes the lead here in our final set of the day. The lead for the fight goes the way of Sanguine right off the bat. Vex trades out, though, with a kill onto Poison. Payan stunned down. Is able to stay alive. That Seismic Crash used by Sanguine now. Poppy Bomb aggressively doesn't connect with the lip of the roof. 57 HP. And Payan remains alive. A great start here for Flashpoint. Maybe a kill. Now down. Over to a different clone. Goes 1. That's cool. Able to stay alive. King Bomb rolling through from Payan. Who will he connect onto? Nobody for the time being. We started to slow down here a little bit, Kresnik. 54% though for Flashpoint.
Yeah, it might speed back up now, though, with Sanguine refighting, and Ruby taking actually a ton of burst damage. I think that was a Strix headshot. You never really expect those on Brightmarsh, even when you're playing against one of them in Vocal. Back catches Poison again, 2 deaths, and I feel like he's been so crucial to their wins. They need to just delay until he comes back.
That's 84% for Flashpoint. Sanguine lurking close by. Wadu, I'm not sure he was able to get a touch. 99% for Flashpoint, he did. So overtime is on. Vex trying to sustain. Dread Serpent up to the high ground, sends a couple running. Overtime reset once, but it's Cool who moves in and immediately goes down. Slither away, but a double kill from Gogurt maybe keeps Sanguine within striking distance here, but Payan, he's still alive. Poppy Bomb backwards. Wadu in under the point. Overtime is going to evaporate. A good wall keeps Payan out of the fight. Dosup's looking to finish things off, though, and he does. Flashpoint lock it down and take the lead.
Yeah, Flashpoint, perfect play by the end of that mid. They just focused down Poison. They knew he was isolated. Chase him down. He's been getting so many kills for that team. They still had Gogurt for the clutch potential, but get rid of one of the 2 people who are just popping off amazingly during that fight. Get rid of one, you can deal with the other with the sustain you have on your team.
Yeah, it wasn't without trying there for Sanguine. Very back and forth. 17 and 9 from Gogurt on that Strix. But hey, 17 and 9 from Payan on that Bomb King. Seems to be a theme there. And it's Flashpoint who come out on top. High kill games. 5 and 10, 8 and 10 for the point tanks in this one. So, I mean, I don't know if you call it similar strategies, but at least similar outcomes. But it was Flashpoint who were able to maybe just to sustain a little bit better, find some extra kills. 164,000 healing is more than both of the Sanguine healers combined. And maybe that, Kresnik, is a large part what pays off here for Flashpoint.
Yeah, that's the potential rise in Dama priority, showing why he would be, you know, having all that healing that he had before. Also, it happens a little bit faster now, so you can output if you are high skill, and these are some of the highest skilled healers in the world on some of these teams, so we'll really see what Damba's going to be able to do. I think the DPS early picks from Flashpoint really opened the door for them. I think having that Bomb King, having that Andro, we saw in Vocal and Pain just cleaning up on everything. We saw how much Pain was able to do with the poppies, with the area control. At the end, if he had been properly walled off, maybe Wadu lives a lot longer, but he shoots through that window, just denies Sanguine's chances of confirming that point for them.
And you kind of called it in picks and bans. It's Androxus immediately locked in, a Bomb King follows up, and you're like, all right, you know, I only need to see these first 2 or 3 picks with a Barrack rounding out the first 3. And that's all she wrote for Bright Marsh. Flashpoint take the lead in this set as we head to Bazaar. Now, this is a map Gore and I were able to cast earlier today in Brazil, but a map, you know, kind of along the same vein as a Fish Market, in that we haven't seen it in a little while.
Yeah, and it's also different to Fish Market. It's actually been in the pool. Everyone's just banning it. It's just no one wanted to play it, but now I guess Sanguine and Flashpoint, they're targeting each other a little bit more. We're going to see it again. One of my favorite maps, personally. I think
Agreed.
Even to play and to cast, it's great. It kind of lends itself to long fights, but I think people are figuring out a little bit more about how to actually capture that objective, how to flank a little better, and to actually convert that payload. It's all about, I think, zoning out the spawn doors and playing that close cover. Sanguine, all these teams should be scrimming it. They should have this knowledge in there. So they should be able to make it work. I think it's also a great map for triple DPS. It's really wide open. You have a lot of sight lines. And if you want to play that flanker style, just go under the tunnels, play the walls, and get a lot done that way.
And Flashpoint have done a brilliant job today of mitigating a lot of that triple DPS. In their 2 wins, the one win that Sanguine has wasn't particularly close. So hopefully for Sanguine, a return to that form. And if we are, we're headed to a Game 5. We got Bazaar to work our way through first. Bans largely unchanging, but the big swap here is the Ashe now banned out instead by Sanguine. Of course, that leaves Io open. Remember, Flashpoint prioritized Androxus at the top of their list last time. They were able to follow that up with an immediate Bomb King, but Io was banned out in game number 3. Won't be the Androxus for the moment, but it will be the Strix to start off picks here for Flashpoint.
Strix, I think, on this map, I'd rather the Strix over the Andro. Andro will go a little bit later, but it's still wide open that Strix has a huge advantage, and Grover has an advantage too. He can poke you from across the map, give you the 600s, 700s, plus having that long-distance route CC. Really consistent, I would say, from their side. Sanguine, I would expect them to go Inari here. They were banning it from Flashpoint. They clearly don't like to play against it, but they're going to go for the con. They're playing more to themselves as opposed to countering Flashpoint, and that could be good for them. We know that they win and they excel when they play to their own style of game. Andro plays into that, Io plays perfectly into that, and Khan is Wadu's preferred solo tank.
Yeah, some high percentage win rates there for Sanguine between the Io and the Androxus, at least nearing 70% on both. Strix, Grover, and Nara locked in here for Flashpoint. Grover has played a surprisingly big role in this set. Remember, game 1 banned out, now seen Grover twice in a row. What have you made of the healer? Have you now maybe seen why there was ban priority in game 1?
I think so. I mean, Flashpoint. Think about Virtus Pro. Vex on Grover. I mean, that was something that they really fell back on. It's a comfort pick for Vex, and you can see how comfortable he is on it with all the damage he's able to do. Also, a lot of sustain, able to keep that Inari healed up. And Whirlwind, compared to that year, it's actually an ability now. You can actually use Whirlwind and not feel like you're instantly going to die, so it helps that Inari out a lot. Love this Xin coming out from Flashpoint as well. I feel like he's great on this map. If you can cycle your cooldowns, even though it's so wide, you can get away from anything. You just time your whirls, time your counters, use that speed. Really hard to pin down. It's going to have to be that Buck more or less chasing him down to make it work.
Well, Ruckus for Rubu will round out the Flashpoint draft here. Again, maybe a return to a classic here. Classic vibes from Flashpoint on Bazaar. Sanguine, though, stick with their triple DPS. It's Khan for solo off-tank here for them. Canessa versus Strix, one more sniper battle here. Do you lean one way or the other as far as teams go?
I actually really like Flashpoint's comp. I feel like it's right up their alley. It just comes down to how much this Buck and Androxus can do paired up.
Well, in a day where we've seen kind of lopsided sets, this one has been anything but. We have seen a Bazaar today. That one, well, it didn't go quite as long as we maybe expected. Can Sanguine bounce back, force us into a game 5, or the Flashpoint end things here and now? Only Bazaar will be able to tell us. Looks like Ferocity Grover this time around, guillotine
Interesting.
on that Xin. And that is an interesting pick, I suppose. I guess Ferocity, kind of that off-tank maybe vibe, but it's solo heal Grover this time around, and he's going to lock in a little extra damage.
I think that's smart on a map as wide as this, but I'd almost rather deep roots. I mean, look at what Sanguine have. You can root the Kinessa to make the duel easier for your Strix. If that Andro or that Buck go and do aggressive, you can stop them. Right now, you can't. If that Buck is jumping, the cripple won't stop in midair like deep roots would have been able to.
Well, it's Payan who's going to try to 2v1 here, but enough sustain onto Cool will keep the Kinessa alive. There's some of those cycled cooldowns, though, and Payan escapes with his life. Flashpoint on the point first. Sanguine, though, back now with 21% and climbing for themselves. Only a couple of kills, both teams fully reinforced, and Vocal, though, finds the shot onto Cool here. So a immediate advantage for Flashpoint. 5v4, and the flick shot connects over onto Poison. You can never count this guy out when he's piloting this Strix, and he'll show you why here. Flashpoint find a few. Rubu now with a double. And now it's Sanguine who are back on the retake.
Great cleanup on the damage there. This Ruckus Xin duo is going to be so lethal. Onto Cool, onto Steve on this IO. They can just cross so much distance and still be able to survive. And they have to find a way to get this Buck and Andro onto Invocal, but he's so far back. So many things in the way. Gogurt has to touch the point, and he's immediately blinded.
Overtime is on, and that's Commander's grab forward, immediately followed by the Battle Shout. Cooldowns down onto the point. Cool off to the side. Wadu forced to back off from the point. Overtime just being juggled here. So it's Poison who's just going to be able to touch a toe in. Wadu resets it one more time, but is going to have to move himself in. A great wall from Dosups, though, blocks off the entry point. And Flashpoint, they get it done the pacifist way. They get a few kills earlier and then just zone out heavily, and Sanguine don't get a chance to retouch.
Yeah, the wall was perfect. Wadu had to stay close, but he couldn't get away with it. He had to back up eventually. Sandroxis, really quick in and out dive onto Payan. It's going to open the door for them to potentially zone when that wall's not going to keep Doe alive for that long. Maybe with the Grover Hill, actually, it can, but Sanguine want to get a lot out of this zone, potentially, with great shots from Poison.
Poison only misses one shot there, and it would have been maybe the double onto Vex, but some support from the rest of Sanguine will continue as Flashpoint have not been able to extend out onto the payload. This is not the point of Bizarre where I think, okay, it's a hard defense to break. It's usually back in the defending team's base, but Sanguine are doing a great job here, just delaying out these fights, keeping Flashpoint pushed back, and give Flashpoint as little time as possible to get that cart moving.
And that's smart, because it is a hard point to break. If you really don't give them a chance to slow down and set up what they want to do, makes it a lot harder. Bounce House from Gogurt, actually. Something we've seen from him a bit. It's an alternative way to play. It is great into Sniper, so it might make Invocal struggle a little bit. I'm assuming he's running Momentum High, which is that damage reduction on Leap, something we don't see a lot out of the standard bulk up build. But he's sacrificing self-sustain for raw damage, and honestly, it might be what they need to really open the door when Flashpoint have that defense unlocked.
When things haven't moved, really, since the last time we checked in. It's a Whirlwind use, though. Maybe that opens up the door here for Flashpoint. Gets the kill onto Gogurt. Wadu delays just a little bit longer. Normally, this would be a wild sweep that maybe makes a massive difference. It will at least get the payload moving. But with 40 seconds left, so much ground to cover. We're just going to extend around maybe this first and second bend. I think all things considered, Flashpoint absolutely have a shot, but Sanguine have delayed so much time.
It's going to be really hard with this double flanker to push against it, excuse me, because they can just go all the way into the backline in an uncounterable way. Those gates open up for them and nobody else. They can go deep, but Poison maybe a little too deep. He gets caught down immediately by a Ferocity Axe.
He's trying to throw some shots into Cool. Wadu deep on the front line. Io stun flies into the back line, but it's Payan who's unaffected by it all. Baller Steve goes down. Now grouped up are a couple members of Sanguine. Can Payan capitalize? The answer is yes. Cool, though, is able to get a kill. One more on the Wadu is maybe all Flashpoint need. Back behind his shield, there's no safety in that. Poison, reversal up, reversal down. Payload in. The respawns are back. Baller Steve back into his base he goes. It's Luna who's doing the contest job right now. And look how much time the Fox has bought here. Payan taken away. And suddenly it looks like Sanguine have maybe snatched this one back. But there is still return dive from Flashpoint.
Honestly, they need to give Gogurt these kills so we can get his resets, and that'll make it easy for them. As long as he can get the kills to keep his stomping ground going, he's not going to be able to be killed on that point, especially with an IO pocket constantly chaining there. You can see stomping ground 5, momentum 5. Those are the keys to the bounce house build that's going to let him chain from one target to the other. Poison's going to have to hold off when someone's low, because if Gogurt doesn't get them, it's not going to be anywhere near as potent as it would have been otherwise. Sniper's near the top of the damage charts here, and I don't think that's too surprising. What is surprising is actually, for me, Rubu above the Xin. I think Rubu's doing well. I just didn't realize he was doing that much better than Payan, who I think has kind of been demolishing all over the backline, but demolishing in the sense that he's drawing eyes with all this sustain, and Rubu, I guess, is the one doing all the cleanup.
Agreed. And I think that's got to be a little frustrating for Flashpoint. You get that close, you kind of do what you need to do on defense, but there's always going to be that Luna lurking by. It's only Dosups with any level of Bulldozer, level 2 for him. Maybe would have made a difference there. Overpower makes a difference to start off. Payan has been a thorn in the side, and let's get rid of him first, says Sanguine. Gogurt finds that shot. Down goes Poison. Dosups catches plenty of that damage, and Cool will finish it off with a sniper. Look at what Flashpoint were able to get, Kresnik. 45% already.
Yeah, it's great for them, but now that Sanguine have IO on point, they can just do this 5-man zone more or less wherever they want. They have to be careful, though, because there's a lot of burst damage on that right side. Poison, specifically. You get hit by a Ferocity Axe and a Strix headshot, you are not getting out of that other than respawning at that point. Actually, this is rough by Doe. Force the Earthen Guard really early. Even though Flashpoint are taking that space, that's their best person to touch the point. Kind of unable to.
A Cursed Arm reactively from Poison there. One shot goes wide, one connects over onto Rubu, and Vocal with the shot onto Baller Steve. 90% for Sanguine. Rampaging, though, is Gogurt. A double kill for the Buck. That's a spike that does connect onto Cool, but that's about all Flashpoint have to hang their hat on. Overtime is on. It's really only Payan who's going to be in range. Can he reset overtime? Yes, he can, but he will be cleaned up for it. Overtime needing one final reset, nobody from Flashpoint in range, and Sanguine have weathered the storm and gotten their second point.
You know, watching Payan there, I'm pretty sure he's on Guillotine. I saw that at the beginning. I don't think he swapped, but all he has to kill with it are people who can survive it. Khan with Shout, Buck with the damage reduction, I believe, or at least he can get healed by IO. It's going to be almost impossible for them to really clean up on anyone, and he's missing out on a lot of damage, I think. It's going to make it a lot harder for Flashpoint to hold this area and let the backline go down.
Yeah, Flashpoint had a couple of kills, but immediately those don't matter, as Sanguine have found some more recently. Dosups finds the roundabout route behind Cool and will finish off some damage there. A much faster start to this payload push, and that's a big difference maker from what you just saw from Poison. Doesn't completely commit to that backline, but some of that big Androxus mobility up and over those fences could make a difference.
Yeah, being able to actually push that way really opens the door, and it's why a lot of comps can't really get away with pushing this map. But their comp can, and you can already see Poison just running it down mid, but still able to find two.
It's a couple kills now for this Androxus back behind the walls. Dosups and a commander's grab will give the kill over to Gogurt. 1 minute and 15 seconds left on the defense for Flashpoint, but 5% maybe of the way to go for Sanguine. Respawns are out. Dosups is back up, is mounted up. Will be dismounted. Rubu dashes forward. Dosups makes his way down. Final shots of looking for them onto the ruckus, but a Hex of Fire will turn around some good damage. Gogurt ends up falling over to Rubu, but Payan does as well. It's now Poison, who's bound around the backside. Jump right on through from Rubu, looking for a kill. Onto this Androxus, unable to do so, but they've slowed things down here. Flashpoint with 45 seconds left, looking reinforced on the defensive side.
I think Sanguine actually could have had it there, but I think their priority was just wrong. If they had spent that Accursed Arm immediately from Poison, who was in relative cover, onto the Inara, they kill the Inara, they cap. Rubu's Hexa-firing in the backline, but they just worry too much about getting the kills and less about confirming the objective. To get that first pick onto Payan, though, but they have to move fast if they want to make this number advantage actually work in their favor.
Up and over goes Gogurt. This is probably the final engagement. Watch out, Poison has made his way into the backline, and Vocal knows where he is, though. Be Gone flies through. It's Sanguine who have found the opening 2 kills. Payan has only found 1. Rubu ends up going down as well. Suddenly, Flashpoint with no front line to stand on. Overtime is on, but nobody's in range. Flashpoint are swept. Poison double taps a few, and Sanguine move themselves within 1 point of the game 5.
Vertical flankers on this map open the door for you so much. You can really get away with anything pushing that last point. Normally, you think, wow, why is Bazaar so hard to push? You think about it from the pushing perspective. You're always just running down that one lane with all those backlines. Right. But Andro being able to go over, Buck being able to go over, they have to turn their head on a swivel. Suddenly, Invocal is under a lot more pressure, hiding from Cool and getting pushed by Poison and Gogurt. There's just too many things for him to worry about, and their team can't really focus their damage where it has to be. Gogurt's also showing the value of Buck on this map, too. You can jump over those walls on mid to do chip damage, and he's also able to use that cover to just keep going in, keep resetting his cooldowns with that stomping ground. This bounce house is working wonders for Sanguine.
See if Flashpoint have an answer to it. Maybe some Cauterize mitigates the restore. Buck Wild, though, you can't really mitigate that. Poison will do most of the damage there, so maybe Buck Wild actually not finding quite the mark that Gogurt was looking for. 1-for-1 trade to start off. Overpower used, but doesn't end up connecting. Cool barrel stuffing Doseps down, but that won't stop the headshots. And Nara, see you later. And Sanguine, 51%. They might just push us to a game 5.
I don't know if that's worth it from Doe. I get that's how it works, but after you lose Zin, I think he has to come back to the point. You need to get overtime, and you staggered yourself out too much. Now you're going to throw people away to make this OT happen. Doe does make it back, but Dire straights and Poison's deep in the back.
Poison trades at 1 as Pan has found the kill. Accursed Arm, there's plenty of targets. Who does he prioritize? The Whirlwind immediately to answer back here from Vex. Overtime on, Poison down, and Vocal finds that final shot. Baller Steve just retreating from this fight. There is a Luna completing the overtime touch onto the point. Rampaging now is Cool. He'll teleport away. Flashpoint have regained control. Maybe just for a second, though, as Sanguine have found a couple kills. Payan chops away at Gogurt. Now, can you stop the retake?
I don't think so. With that Eagle Eye pressure on the side, Poison makes it back in, but they need to find a pick on a flanker now. There's no chance, and Doe is dangerously low.
That's a good wall from Doseps, though, to keep his life going just a little bit longer. Down goes Doe. That's Cool, who finds the shot, dashing up above. Luna will chase him through. Sanguine stand tall. And we are going to a game number 5. As if these two teams going against one another would be anything else. Neck and neck. And we've got a game 5 on the horizon.
And I like how they're both kind of sticking to their guns. I don't think either team has really pushed too far past what they like to play. It's coming down to maps, and it's coming down to execution. That's what it's going to be for Game 5 too, but look at these stats. Cool. You can see why they threw Doe at him. I mean, 13 and 5, doing a ton of damage, I think, from his side. Eagle Eye, that burst. People aren't used to it anymore. Everyone's used to steady aim. If you're getting chunked that much every time, you got to throw someone at him.
Yeah, I'll take 110,000 damage, please. 20k higher than Invocal, his sniper counterpart on the other side. Poison also closing in on 20 kills here this game, and then also a big killing discrepancy. Baller Steve was able to do about 20 to 30,000 more than what Vex was able to do there for Flashpoint, and especially in a game that started off well for Flashpoint. Remember, come so close to converting their first payload, but it's really that first point cap is all she wrote for Flashpoint in this one. Sanguine just seemed to have it figured out a little bit better.
Yeah, I think so. I think they had a better comp for it too, and they drafted these multiple flankers. I think plays a lot better into their style than having the sniper and the backline they've had in the past a little bit. They played it perfectly. I think Cool also being able to live on his own quite a bit with those close range headshots really paid in. I didn't realize he also killed Rubu here. This was him just withstanding basically everything. Both tanks on him in the back, just getting quick scoped over and over.
Well, we've already seen Fish Market. We've already seen Bazaar. I'm very curious as to what map number 5 is going to be. We're going to have to wait, though, to find out. We've got a good one here. Sanguine versus Flashpoint. Game 5 right after this. Oh, welcome back for the final time today. Game 5 between Flashpoint and Sanguine. Kresnik, we've seen about a little bit of everything, I would argue, here in this set as far as wins. Heavily lopsided, 7 points, compositions, a little bit of everything. It's been a lot of fun to watch. It's Flashpoint on Fish Market, Serpent Beach, Bright Marsh Bazaar. Checkerboard up and down between the black and yellow. Jaguar Falls, though, will round us out here. We have seen, I think my brain still goes to those snipers because we've seen the role they play here today. Bomb King as well jumps out to me. We have seen a sniper or two on Jaguar Falls, but I don't know if it's that high priority pick that we have seen throughout the rest of these games.
I wouldn't be shocked to see it. I wouldn't be shocked to see Sanguine pull out a Strix just for some close range sniping. I would definitely prefer Strix over Kinessa on this map. I think Strix handles pressure a little bit better, but I mean, look at Cool last game. He's quick scoping point blank and an R and a ruckus in his face. If he can do that, he can play Kinessa anywhere. Still, I'd rather Strix for that rotation potential with escape plan. With tactical retreat, being able to 50% speed a couple times, go from one side of the map to the other, and still have cooldowns left if he gets one kill.
This is a Sanguine team that's only lost once up to this point, and that's to the first place team and Team Project, who have not lost yet. Flashpoint will look to exercise some of that here in game number 5. Change up in the bans, not for Flashpoint, still Victor, Vivian. Not for Sanguine in the Eevee, but it is Bomb King taken away, presumably from Payan here. And Kresnik, that opens up the door for this IO.
Yeah, a great first pick on this map, I think. Maybe a little worse than on some of the other maps. I think there are more ways to deal with it. You could play the Blasters on this map that can kind of just delete Luna 100-0. And you can also play a more centralized map. You know, you can play towards that sun side, grouped up in that room, and then rotate out, but burn down Luna before you actually move. You have some options here. Sanguine, I'm sure, are happy to lock in this Androxus and this Con. Again, solo tank that we know they like. Androxus, very flexible, can play at medium to long range and close that gap almost in an instant. Going to be great at barreling down on that IO if he sees a single opening.
And Cassie as well. You know, despite a low win rate here for Flashpoint as well, meaning I think I tend to enjoy that pick. I think she just provides kind of that intangible, you know, good nostalgia feeling maybe for me, but absolutely a champion that connects in the right ways, especially when piloted by any of the number of guys on this Flashpoint roster, maybe in the hands of Invocal here this game, depending on where those picks go. Moji and Jaguar Falls seem to be pretty synonymous here at this point, and Sang we're going to move for.
I think it's smart. We know that Moji does well for Sanguine. She's a flanker that's tanky, can heal herself, can heal her teammates. That plays right into their wheelhouse. It plays perfectly for triple DPS too. And it's a map that we know Moji can succeed. Add on top of that the Genos boosted damage, that's a much more lethal Moji. Suddenly your Cassie or Io, their head's on a swivel with both of these flankers potentially just running them down all game.
Yeah, and boost them up a little bit. That Genos. Tiberius for Flashpoint locked in here, so a little triple DPS composition of their own. Io and Nara to sustain and play around that point, and you kind of got two people now to work around that point, whether it's Luna or a Nara. Tiberius rounds out their draft, but a Talus for Sanguine actually ends up rolling through here. Remember, Talus over in Brazil was the heavy console controller-centric ban, but Sanguine's going to give him a go.
And I think it's smart. It's a good map for him. The retake potential of true power when it's kind of hard to make it back through the pressure the enemies might have. I think it's a good pick. Triple DPS into triple flanker. If triple flank play together, they can just burn down targets one by one. Flashpoint are going to need a lot of teamwork, I think, to live through all that damage.
We are in a game 5. What has happened up to this point? Well, it doesn't really matter. It matters whoever wins Jaguar Falls. One final map to decide our final set here in the PPC for today. If the map screen is any indication, and we're checkerboarding back and forth, this is Flashpoints to lose, I suppose. They've lost last game, so maybe it's their time to win this one. Do you think this Tiberius is a good pick, though, here for Jaguar Falls? And do you think he could maybe be a difference maker in getting Flashpoint a win?
I think Tiberius will trade every time he gets dove. And they can't take 1v1s with him. That's the biggest benefit to having him. But normally when you pick Tiberius, you're thinking, I'm going to get really aggressive, go with a dive off tank. He's going to be going in with Rubu if they move together. But who are they getting on? Who are they getting on? The Genos, he's going to be far enough away that his flankers will be able to move faster onto the IO. It's a tough pick, but if they play him slow to win 1v1s, I think I can see some merit in it.
Well, moving aggressively forward is Gogurt. Talk about backline dive. Suddenly it's Vex, who's a little bit nervous. Cool falls for first blood. Payan ends up dropping down as well. The counter flank was there from the Tiberius. Didn't quite work out. Dosups onto the point, and Poison looking for the roundabout shots, but Invocal connects with some long-range damage, controlling the space quite well. Flashpoint find the kills. They find some effective trades. Invocal does end up going down. But it's Flashpoint who have themselves a 45% lead now on the point.
Doe did get off, though, so lost a little bit more time. Cool coming back in from the respawn to do an insane amount of damage as well, and the cleanup from Steve is there. That was the Moji lifesteal, honestly, just winning them that game. That Moji lived way too long, trading 2 kills and just buying enough time for all the respawners to get back.
A couple of kills for Cool, a couple kills for Baller Steve, and plenty of sustain from the Moji. Sanguine tie up and now eclipse what Flashpoint were able to grab on that point. 4-man rotation through the left. Dosups look to move and try to contest his payload right up the middle. He's leaping his way through. Luna has dropped down to contest. True Power punches through onto Vex, but Rubu turns around for enough damage. Overtime is on and melting away here. Pay and Void gripped up, but dashes out of the way of danger. It's a double kill for Invocal, a triple kill for the Cassie. And Kresnik, I think that seals up point number 1. Flashpoint fight back in and strike first.
That was just perfect cleanup there by the end. Sanguine just couldn't follow up on a kill. That True Power was not necessary. You could have just played to push aggressively. True Power potentially, if you die aggressively with your team, wait for someone to be low in True Power. Initiating with it is not going to work when the entire team is deathballing in one room. Sanguine are going to have to think about how they want to make it work in the future, but for now, they're all low, disengaging with only a Genos to heal them. They need to find a pick now, or Flashpoint's just going to snowball this.
We thought he got the kill on Rubu was Gokert, but enough sustain there, and Rubu turns around the damage. The Buck starting to swing when you'd want him to, and the Tiberius is as well. That's 2 kills now for Payan around the bend. 5 members of Sanguine left respawning, 3 ultimates ready to go, maybe on the defensive side. This is going to be a tough front line to break through.
Yeah, for sure, with how aggressive Doe is right now, and they could use some damage to make it. They have the damage to go through him, but with Earthen Guard still available and no one contesting the point right now, they're going to have to make a move ASAP.
Wow.
Great pressure here, but Wadu goes down. No one else is going to be able to follow it up at all.
Yeah, all you needed was the kill onto Gokert, and then ultimately the kill onto Wadu, the lone tank here for Sanguine. And it's back and forth. I mean, talk about the snowball kind of out of control. I mean, it was, I guess, in the nature that Flashpoint won it. You completely swept Sanguine as you're capturing the point, so they're already on the back foot, and Flashpoint didn't really have to stop from that point on.
Yeah, Doe capping early really helped them secure that easily. He had about, what, 45% by the time he died. He did get off a couple times to give up some space, but they already had all the time they needed for the recap. And look at this Haven stack coming out from Flashpoint. They know they're only really dealing with the Genos healing, so they're willing to commit away from getting cauterized. But without that cauterized 3, without going towards that early, this Moji's going to be living a lot longer. The Talus with this Life Rip Rush has a lot more sustain. Could make things a little bit easier for Sanguine, potentially, but they don't want this to go to a late game, I think, with the characters that they have.
To overpower onto Rubu, and it will be good here for Flashpoint, or Sanguine, rather. And now another couple of kills. Fast cap on their side, so these small trades kind of compounded an impact here if Sanguine are able to continue to find these kills, but they are not. The 2 streaked out members of Flashpoint. It's Invocal at 14-8 for Dosup's True Power deep into the back line, and Cool will melt down Payan, but he's disengaged the fight for himself. Can the rest of Flashpoint fight back in? It's Dosups who's down onto the point, and Rubu still left respawning now. Dosups is chipped away, and it looks like Sanguine are just going to run away with this one. A double kill from Cool Matt puts the icing on the cake, and Sanguine get themselves on the board.
So if you guys are wondering, that's how you use True Power. You find someone isolated and pick them off, or follow up on a low health kill. That being used properly, better ultimates in general, I'd say, from Sanguine really just kind of helped them snowball from that early damage they were able to do. Sanguine are also very aggressive with their flank comp, and they have to be just sitting close, hug the corner. As soon as someone walks out a little bit too far, you have to pounce. But Flashpoint can play slow for now. This isn't a great place to contest the payload. Wait till it gets closer and give Doe a better angle to work from.
They haven't been slowed down until the moment now, are Sanguine, and Gokert will be left out on an island. How far forward can you push now if you're Flashpoint? And they're going to try to draw that line right back towards that mid-fight. Sanguine have already made up so much ground. Dosups and Payan will combine for a kill on the Wadu. That'll certainly delay things out here for Sanguine. But maybe a little passive here from Flashpoint. They don't want to overextend.
I don't think it's about not wanting to overextend. I think it's about trying to sync up. With their composition and what they're against, you really have to move together. You have to fight people at the same time. And Flashpoint are playing pretty close together, too, so move in as a unit, find someone to burn down, and then go. Now they're splitting just to slowly bully out Flashpoint, and a bad crouching jump from Payan gets him picked off.
Through time and space won't finish off any kills, but maybe set some up there. Sanguine have knocked down 3 members of Flashpoint. It's only Buck, it's only Cassie left alive. A Void Grip pulls up Rubu. Gogurt cleans up both of those kills. The respawns are slightly staggered from Flashpoint, but Dosups is alive, maybe the most important member. 45 seconds left for Flashpoint. Looking for 1 kill. A nice wall blocks it off, though. Gogurt left sad after that one. In around the side onto Invocal, but Invocal finds a final shot. True power onto Vex in the backline, but immediately has to take the Rune of Travel away. But the rest of the fight going for Sanguine elsewhere on the map. Stunned down from Luna. Vex is going to be able to finish off the kill, but it's Luna, it's Io against the world here. And once Sanguine melt down that Fox, I don't think Vex is going to have much to say about it. This game is tied up at 2.
That true power just locked them down. The fact that he was able to zone Vex and spawn for 1 second, then Poison just went wild. The healing wasn't there to keep the rest of them up. Luna was on the point, but they chose to fight her last. I think Vex did an amazing job keeping Luna up under all that pressure, but there's only so much that Io can do under that much damage coming in from the other side. Ultimate-wise, going into this next fight, Flashpoint, they didn't spend any, so they're going into this 2-2 fight, 5 strong. A few missing from Sanguine. But the most important one, in my opinion, is still there. Overpower from Wadu. If he can pull Vex, if he can pull Doe, anyone that's going to have that potential contest on the point to let Sanguine take their time, play slow off of the objective, and then take it later. Get rid of either of them, and then you make the fight a lot easier for yourself. You're not really on that fast timer like you would be otherwise.
Flashpoint left uncontested maybe on that first point, largely because of this, the kind of 1-2 point contest between Dosups and this Luna. Wadu is just going to stand still, chip away some damage onto the Fox, but it won't end up resulting in much. Luna dashes forward, stuns down onto 1. Wadu has to move forward. Commander's grab won't get the kill. So much time bought here by Flashpoint, and they get a few kills. Poison maybe is a saving grace, but it looks like Flashpoint might just run away with point number 3.
Depends on how aggressive and Flashpoint are willing to go here, but actually Buckwild doesn't make anything happen. Flashpoint, though, like you said, Doe on the point. With Luna got pulled off a little bit later, they just kept it going. Sanguine just couldn't make their way back in.
Now Sanguine have to fight back here to avoid this one being all over. As Flashpoint move themselves to game point and set point, one that has been back and forth. I'm not sure there's a such thing as a moral victory for these teams that love to win, but if nothing else, the fact that this one has stayed as contested as possible maybe is a small victory. A different look, though, for Flashpoint from when they were able to convert earlier, and that Sanguine kind of had themselves staggered out and Flashpoint staggered out just a little bit, so the payload is not immediately rolling into the Sanguine side.
Yeah, they're not able to do that too much. Pan actually, look at this aggression right now. They tried to spend ultimates for both sides, and I think it's a little early for that. Both ultimates don't really find too much with Cool having to run away, but they kill Pan on the refight. But still, even with the ultimates going better for Sanguine, they're giving up space to this and Gnar running it down. You can see why they ban Gnar all the time with all the space Doe's been making.
Well, Luna eats that Commander's grab, and the rest of Flashpoint will thank her for it, and she's able to live. Maybe the most important factoid of that small interaction. Some blades from Pan. I mean, this is it here for Sanguine. This is the defense. Payload moving itself in. A minute left. All you need if you're Flashpoint is one more clean fight, and this set is yours. Losing Rubu right off the bat. That's a tough start, though, for Flashpoint, and I think that's the key to disengage.
Oh, jumping inaccuracy, letting Pan escape with a pixel of HP there at the last second. And Sanguine have to be counting their lucky stars after how that one went. That is not a composition that I would really want to be playing on the defense on Jag, as we saw from the initial Flashpoint push. It's just tough to get away with much of anything on the defense with all that close range. So that's why they're getting so aggressive here. You have to play to your comp's strengths, and sitting back while the Cassie and the Tiberius take all the position in the world is not the way to do it, but be a little too forward. They have to do it, but they all go down, and Flashpoint now potentially 5 ultimates to make this push happen. A lot of distance to cover still. Sanguine will be up, but it's all about what these teams want to spend without risking another fight.
Well, the answer is snack time now, and Gogurt gets out alive. He doesn't end up going down. Payan look to get rid of this Talus on the backline, but now Flashpoint are missing a couple of members here. So I don't see a world where Flashpoint really keep things going unless there's a miracle play in the wings from Invocal, and there won't be. Game 5.7 awaits over the horizon. It's a snack time down as the only ultimate not available in this game.
Yeah, that was closer than that fight, I honestly thought Flashpoint had a chance to take it in, but as soon as the Moji Talus both went in, I don't think there was any way they were really turning it around. And they have most of their ultimates, only snack time used from Sanguine, already 25% to it as well. They have potential for a combo too, honestly. If Sanguine can nail a Talus Genos combo onto Vex in the back, getting rid of Luna immediately, getting rid of all the healing with relatively, I'd say, low self-sustain backlines, they could just walk in at that point and just burn through and use their superior self-sustain and spread healing from the Genos. But that's a hard one. That's a hard ask. That's not an easy L combo to do. Even some PPL teams at their peak weren't hitting it every single time, and they're actually relying on the overpower early instead. Don't miss the wall.
Did Joe end up falling off the map? No, he stayed on, so Dosups doesn't even die for it. Through time and space will fly through. True power used as well. Can Payan finish off some of these backliners? He tosses down the heavy blade. In one taps Baller Steve on his way out. Flashpoint have themselves 51%. A great start as Sanguine looked to fight back in.
Was that planned? Because Doe did put up the wall early every time, but didn't that time, and Poison staggers out at the end. Ruba should live through this Talus aggression too.
Cool pushing forward. Gogurt is there to combine and get rid of the buck. 96% for Flashpoint. Sanguine left fighting back in. It's a double kill for the Moji. Maybe keep Sanguine here in this game. Cool dancing back and forth around the side, and we'll get the rest of the damage onto Vex. Sanguine, they're storming the gates here. Finally, Dosups goes down. Sanguine retake control of the mid, but they've got a lot of ground to cover.
And Flashpoint basically spent everything there. They just couldn't burn through the Moji with all that sustain, all that damage. Now, Sanguine getting aggressive. Again, they have to fight at close range, and they still have the Accursed Arm potentially waiting for them. If Doe gets dismounted, this is almost impossible, but he actually makes it pretty far forward. We're getting slowed down by the Moji, and already cooldowns being spent.
Poison stays on. Accursed Arm rains down, but Baller Steve has found the kill onto Dosups. 96% for Sanguine. They're left in control of this point. Baller Steve ends up going down. So does Payan. Cool takes a tumble, but nobody else is in range, and Sanguine will stand tall at the end of the day, and they'll take this set in 5 games.
What a retake by them, honestly. That was a miracle retake. That shouldn't have happened, but people 2v1'd by emoji. There's so much healing. That Rejuvenate card, with Cauterize not being as good as it used to, you just cannot kill that emoji. Invocal not having Cauterize 3 might have hurt too. Not having the ability to actually stop Gogurt from just living through everything.
10 and 15 for Payan, 10 and 16 for Rubu, so plenty of kills, but 15, 16 deaths is not what you want on 2 of your 3 DPSs. Top damage in the game, relatively tied between Cool and Invocal. But then you look at the healing. Kresnik, 110,000 for Baller Steve, and then you add another 5,000 in there. Vex, 75k, so you're looking at 40k differential there, if quick math serves me right, and sustain just enough from Sanguine. And I like this, actually, kind of taking a look at Cool as well. We got to look at Talus, and made a difference here for Sanguine.
Yeah, no, for sure. He was able to get really aggressive, and just the triple flanker in general, I think, it played well into what they like to do. They like to be aggressive. They like to have self-sustaining characters, and it paid off for them. I wish we could see self-healing, honestly, from lifesteal or from other sources at the end, because I think it'd be pretty high for all of Sanguine. They were just vamping everything off of the enemy team. I will say, I think Tiberius did falter a little bit. It's so good when you want to get aggressive, but I feel like there was really no one for them to dive on the other side. And most of those leaps by Payan kind of just led to his death.
Well, the one blemish on Sanguine's resume here is still that one loss to Team Project. Nearly a second to Flashpoint here, but they stand tall. Worth noting, back in Brazil, Parallax did end up beating in Control Nation. It was a 5-game set, which still is maybe enough to raise those eyebrows, but Parallax Gaming, they were able to win that set, so they're still the outright leaders over in Brazil. But over here in NA, how do the standings change? Well, not much here, Kresnik. And actually, surprisingly enough, to be honest, maybe to me, but NA has started to become a region where there's kind of these top two teams and not that much behind it. I still think Flashpoint is ahead of, the Predator Squad, Snappin', and Tea Party. But you look at those score lines, I don't think Project loses to anyone. Sanguine only loses to Project, and Flashpoint are kind of just beaten down beneath them.
Yeah, the real contest in North America is in the bottom with HP and Snappin'. They've actually traded places 2 weeks in a row, just going back and forth.
Good point.
So how does that end up panning out as we go into the tournaments later near the end of this split? The bottom two teams, I think, are going to be up for relegation. So those teams playing against each other, Snappin' won the last time. The next two games are going to decide who gets to plant their feet and stay in the circuit.
And we'll be able to see some of those matches that weren't broadcast today on the community broadcast throughout the weekend. 2 p.m. tomorrow is the community broadcast start time. Myself, Kresnik, Gormizer, and Fawn will be casting some of those games for you. So make sure to tune in 2 p.m. Eastern time to watch some more Paladins action. It was a little bit longer there towards the end, but Sanguine are able to round out the day 5 games strong, and they keep only 1 in their loss column. But that's all we've got for you here today in the PPC. On behalf of myself, Kresnik, everyone back in production, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.